I sent my boy to school that morning happy. He never came home. What came home was an urn, and I still hear it. The sound of the front door closing. The thud of his backpack against the shoe rack. That little hop he did down the last 2 steps, because he thought it looked cool. Every morning had that sound, and every morning used to mean we had more time. But time folds in on itself. You think you'll smooth it later, but you can't. My son was 11, sensitive, sweet, bright. He'd give away his snack if someone forgot theirs, whisper to the class goldfish like it could whisper back. He got overwhelmed in loud cafeterias, and school should have been about learning. But for him it became about shrinking. A push in the hallway, a shove near the lockers, a bruise on his shin from being accidentally kicked under a desk. His pencil case disappeared and came back with all the erasers chewed off. I kept telling myself, kids can be mean, but adults would help. Teachers would notice. That's what we're told, right? There are systems, protocols. But too often, the neat answer won. A crying child was disruptive. Asking for a breather was delaying. He was told to use your words, as if his feelings weren't welcome. And when he did, "I'm scared. Don't leave me alone with them. Can I call my mom?" The answer was, "We'll follow up later." Always later. A few weeks before he died, he got pushed in the stairwell, scraped both palms. Nobody called. I only found out at dinner. When he hid his hands and winced from the salt, he said it's nothing, and I wanted to believe him. We talked to the school after that. They promised to watch more closely. I clung to that phrase like it was a guarantee. The day it happened, I gave him yogurt and a banana. He hugged me tighter than usual. I noticed. I even texted him at lunch. No reply. I told myself, relax, he probably left his phone in the locker. Later, I pieced it together. He cried 3 times. Once when told he was dramatic for asking to switch partners. Once when a boy mimicked his voice and the class laughed. And once when he was pulled into a room for some fact-finding. They searched his things, made him write a statement. 11 years old, sitting in a conference room with adults. No parent, no counselor. Just him, trying to hold it together. He left school, shoulders hunched, backpack heavy. 13 minutes after dismissal, he was gone. He fell 16 stories. A passerby pastor turned him over, called an ambulance, held him. An hour later at the hospital, they declared him dead. I was making dinner when the phone rang, a number I didn't know. Hospital words, ICU words. Words I'd only ever heard on TV, but this time aimed at me. The drive I barely remember. Red lights, everything underwater. The elevator to the ICU, people stepping aside. Because my face told them everything. A doctor talking, but never saying the one sentence I needed. Nobody said he's okay. When they let me see him, I touched his hair like I did 100 mornings. My fingers knew the part line. My palm knew his forehead. My body kept reaching for a future that wasn't there. I whispered useless words. I begged the air. Grief isn't one wave, it's interruptions. His name in my phone, the empty chair at dinner. A laugh in the store that drops me to my knees. Festival lights that feel obscene. I even stopped cooking his favorite meals, then started again. Because the smell sometimes kept me alive. I put his hoodie on a chair so the room wouldn't collapse. I learned which routes in my house passed the fewest photos. I learned how to wake from a dream where he's alive without screaming. And my other kids, they lost their brother too. They cried for months. Our family used to be happy. Now it feels broken in the middle. I thought maybe advocacy would help. Maybe it would save me. But people nod, then say, maybe he was too sensitive. Nobody can watch every kid all the time. I know that. But nobody can watch every kid isn't the same as we did enough. Protocols exist isn't the same as we used them. I replay doors that could have opened that day. A counselor called in. A parent on speakerphone. A teacher saying, "You look overwhelmed, let's step outside." Another kid saying, "Sit with me." No single door guarantees a different ending, but more doors, more chances. Kids like mine wouldn't fall through so easily. Sometimes I dream he's still here, cross-legged on the floor, explaining Pokémon evolutions like they matter. He looks up. "You're listening, right?" And I say, "I'm listening. I'm right here." I wake up with the answer in my mouth and no one to hear it. Other nights I dream I'm always late. Late to the school, to the bus stop, to the roof. I wake up furious at clocks, furious at doors, and still I go speak when I'm asked. I sit with administrators and force myself to say the sentence that tastes like metal. My son died. I tell them he was bright and kind, that he carried napkins because someone always spills, that he noticed when someone sat alone. He wasn't just kind, he topped his class in science and math. He looked after his siblings. His classmates loved him. Sensitive, yes, but never a bad kid. I tell them he needed a net. We didn't know how to weave. And I tell them, you can weave it. Eye contact, a quiet voice, an extra beat before discipline, a phone call home. Kids like mine don't need perfection. They need adults who see the cliff edge and step in the way. And of course, I blame myself too. I wonder if I should have raised him to be tougher. But he was usually so chill. No one saw this coming. I can't rewrite that day. I can't erase the call that split my life in two. I can't bring him back from where numbers like 16 don't matter anymore. But I refuse to let his story shrink into a cautionary tale. His story is about tenderness, about how we confuse resilience with silence, about how we train kids to behave instead of training adults to notice. What I want is a world where tears aren't treated like disruptions, where teachers are trained and allowed to slow down when a kid floods, where counselors aren't treated as extras, where calling home isn't escalation but partnership, where kindness isn't social suicide, it's leadership. And here's the truth. Sharing this doesn't bring him back. Nothing will. That's the stone I carry. But I'm not telling this to blame. I'm telling it because by sharing our experience, maybe there's more understanding, a little more empathy, and maybe that empathy leads to change. That's all I want. For kids like mine, kids with their hearts on the outside, to have a world that notices them. My son deserved that world. And so do the children who are still here.